So, in last session, we started a discussion of tabular SSAS development. I said that if you wanted to work on that one, you require data tool software along with SQL Server. And we created a tabular SSAS empty project and we loaded the data from a source. And we created a couple of relationships, created a measures and a KPIs and perspectives. So then after, the next one which is available as part of a tabular model explorer is, you understood about the data sources, the KPIs, measures, perspectives, relationships, roles. We are going to have a discussion. Most probably tomorrow evening session only will continue the security, or it might be next class. So roles we are going to cover as part of separate session. Under tables, you know what do you mean by table? The tables only we loaded. As part of a table, you have each table has four options are there. One is columns, hierarchies, measures, partitions. You know about the columns. Like first of all, the tables are nothing but the list of tables that you loaded or the tables that you created in tabular SSAS. So these are the five tables that we loaded. This table we created, calculated table 1, or I can call it as date dimension. Date I created, it will reflect later. So here the list of tables I loaded and the calculated tables were displaying over here. Each table will have the four properties: columns, the hierarchies, measures, and the partitions. And columns, the list of columns under that data, that table will be displayed. And the next one, measures. You know what is a measure? We already created. Here it is going to showcase the list of measures at a model level. It is going to display. But if you want, you can, like, whatever the measures that you created under that column or that table, that will be managed separately over here. Under brand sentiment table, what are all the measures that you created? If you want to see, you can see from here. These measures is at a model level. For all the tables, whatever the measures that you created, that will be available under a measures. And for a specific table, whatever the measure that you created, that will be available over here. And columns and measures are fine. Hierarchies. Hierarchies, sometimes hierarchy is similar to a calculated column. It is pre-processed data. Okay, so hierarchy is nothing but whenever you are having a hierarchical data, we are going to create that dimension and we are going to save it, or we are going to read the data for that dimension, and we are keep it as part of our model. So whenever you use it, it will not be required to perform a recalculation on the same dimension level. At that time, we are going to create a hierarchy. So hierarchy, what is the functionality? We'll understand. The types of hierarchy. See, people, they'll define the names however they want. Okay, however they know. So some people will call it as natural and unnatural. Okay, and some people will call normal, rugged hierarchies. Okay, so it might be, the names might be different. At that level, people will not ask you first of all at interview level. But what you can do, that is what the matter. So we'll understand that one, whatever the name it is. So the hierarchy, whenever we have a hierarchical data, hierarchical data, we create this dimension. So here, what it is going to perform, how it is going to perform is, generally the measure, whenever you drag a dimension at that time, at that level it is going to calculate, at that level, it is going to calculate and it is going to display the data. I said yesterday, the day before yesterday, we have a concept called catching. Before I showcase the catching, the person who asked that question got dropped, so I stopped that one to showcase. So, like in the same context, so as that was calculated before itself, and it will be stored for, it will be stored. 1 second. So you are able to see dataset settings. In the dataset settings, there is a direct connection between a Power BI and a database. When you interact with visualization, queries are sent from Power BI directly to the database. To enhance the performance of dashboard tiles, uh, dashboard tiles are cached and periodically refreshed. Change the frequency here. You can always manually refresh a tile time by using an option on the more menu from the tile. You can refresh it, but if you want, you can automatically refresh your dashboard tiles. For that, by default, 1 hour is there. If you want, you can reduce it to 15 minutes. So for every 15 minutes, you can make your dashboard to get refresh without your interaction or without any scheduling. Okay, or this refreshing is different than whatever the refreshing that we used to do with SSIS on SAS cubes. Okay, you might you might get the latest data in a cube, but whenever you interact at that time, it will get the latest data. But what this schedule refresh is going to do is, even you touch your field or not, even if you interact with your visualization or not, always it is going to get the latest data and send it to the cache and send it to that and refresh the dashboard tiles. This is where you can configure the cache. So that's why whenever you execute, whenever you use any measure, that will not take much time. Why? Because this calculation was already done and that is stored in a Power BI cache, cloud cache it is stored. So immediately it will display the data. So that's why live connection will not down with the performance. Is Gitan joined today? Let me check. For all the other people also. Gitan not joined. Anyways, you'll see the video. For all the people. So measure is going to impact the performance means you can increase the performance with these options. Clear with this? Krishnaveni, and other people. Raja's audio. Raja, are you able to hear me? Okay, fine. So that is about a catching, and just give me a second. And the next thing is, we are in a discussion of the hierarchy. Here, before understanding hierarchy or calculated column, what is the functionality? We have, whenever you process the cube, what it is going to do is, there are two levels of processing will be there. Processing the data, which is going to load the data and then after creating a calculations. In order to understand more, we have a term called process. Process. What do you mean by process is loading the data from data source to tabular server.
Yes,
So
Srinivas.
here, yes, I can hear you. From Rajesh Mission, right? Fine. So process loading the data from data source to tabular server. So fine. Here you have a data as part of your SQL server. There are hundreds and thousands of tables will be there. Multiple schemas will be there. But in tabular model, as part of your data tools tabular project, we are loading only 10 tables. In the 10 tables, only required columns, required rows, and we are creating a relation between them. And we are deploying that in another server called tabular SSAS server. SSAS server. From here, we are using a Power BI live connection. Power BI live connection we are using. Now, this is a development environment to create this database. Now, what do you mean by a process is nothing but? A process is nothing but reading the data from here to here of these 10 tables, or reading the data from here to here by applying whatever the model that you created over here. So here you are going to do some relationships and methods creation, tables creation, partitions and everything, right? You, you are loading these 10 tables into the tabular SSA server by applying all these development whatever you have done here. So it's a layer, it's kind of a view. Your complete model it's a view. You are reading the data from your database based on the view that you created. That output you are storing in a tabular SSAS. Now, view is already created, view is already deployed. I need to load the data from database to here. Database to here, I need to load the data. The the mechanism of doing that data movement will be called it as a process. Whatever the activity that we are doing to move the data from source to your tabular server based on the model that you created here, that thing we call it as a process. That data movement can be done for a complete model that you created or a specific table. A single table data I can move it, or a complete all the tables data I can move it. Within a table there is a concept called a partition. I can move that specific partition data. So whatever the data movement will be called as a process. Now, whenever you are doing a process, mainly three things will be there. One is, or mainly two things will be there. Process, process data. Process data means only the data will be moved from here to here. Whenever you move the data, just just the table data will be stored. Only the data will be moved. But as part of your data model, you created some calculated columns, right? You will be created some calculated columns. When those will get calculated, those will be calculated under a step called process calculation. There are two types of process will be there: process data and process calculation. Process data means only the data will be moved from source to your destination by applying the changes that you have done, and only that one will be called as a process data. The second one will be there, process calculation. Process calculation is nothing but whatever the data that you loaded here, on top of it you might create some calculated columns or calculated tables, or you are going to create hierarchies. Everything will be calculated at a process calculation step. So now the hierarchy will be calculated, will be saved at a process calculation state. Process data will be moved, and process calculation is nothing but the calculated columns will be updated at that stage. I am removing that diagram. Understand the concept once again. The first concept is process. A process is nothing but the data movement from your source to your destination. What do you mean by your destination? Your destination is nothing but the model that you created. According to your requirement, instead of having 1,000 or 2,000 tables, you are loading only the required tables, and you are creating relationships, you are creating measures, and you are deploying. For that schema that you created, we are loading the data from your source. The reading of data, we call it as a process. Okay, so now under that process there are multiple process types are there. Out of it, process data is nothing but just a data movement from a source to destination. Process calculation is nothing but the calculations will be performed in a tabular SSAs. What do you mean by calculations? What are the calculations? Are nothing but these things called calculated columns, calculated tables, hierarchies will be calculated there. So now the hierarchies. So what is the use of hierarchies? How to create a hierarchies or how to configure hierarchies are nothing but hierarchies. I said whenever you have a hierarchical data is nothing but their country, state, city, and district, whatever, or year, semester, quarter, month, or product category, or product family, product category, product subcategory, or product name. Like that, if you have any hierarchical data, for that you can calculate the dimension before itself, and you can save it. It's not a dimension. Dimension we are creating with the help of a hierarchy. Whenever you perform a process calculation or whenever you drive that measure, that will be calculated across the complete dimension at the complete hierarchy level, so that will be useful for other calculations. Now, now hierarchy, as I said that whenever we have a hierarchical data, we will create this dimension. What is the need of creating a dimension is, if I have 3 years data is there, I have 3 years data and 3 years of sales data. We have 30 lakhs of records. If I want to analyze, if I want to analyze month level analysis, I need to process, or I need to validate, or I need to go through 30 lakhs records. 30 lakhs records, and I need to get 12 records as outputs, and I need to showcase these things. If I want to see month level calculation, I need to process 30 lakhs records. If I want to see the quarter level data, again I need to process 30 lakhs records, and we are going to get 4 records. If I want to see semester level, if I want to analyze semester level data, again I need to analyze 30 lakhs records. Or year level data, if I want to see, again I need to see 30 lakhs of records, and I need to see the 3 records, or here it might be semester 2 into 3, or 2 records you are going to get it. If there is no relation between the month and a quarter, quarter and a semester, semester and a year, you have, for each and every calculation that you made, it need to analyze all the records and it need to give the data. Now, if there is a relationship, or if there is a hierarchy where I am going to define, boss, if I have a month level data, I can calculate a quarter. If I have a quarter, I can calculate semester. If I have a semester, I can calculate year. If I define a dimension like this, if I define a hierarchy like that, I can query for every entire thing at a time, and then I showcase whatever the level that I want. Okay, so we are going to create this hierarchy or that relationship with the term called hierarchy. So whenever you create a hierarchy, at the time of calculation phase, this hierarchy will be calculated, and whenever you use a measure, it is going to calculate for entire this level. For entire this level, one time activity it will be performed. Then after, if I want to see it a quarter level it was already calculated. Okay, so quarter level it was already calculated, and it is easily displayed. It will not hit the server again, it will not hit the cache again. Or if I want to see at semester level, it is not going to hit the server again. We have the data already available. Or if you want to understand in a more better way, hierarchical data means, you know about the self joins. Generally, when you are going to use the self join, means people will say that hierarchical data. Let's assume I have employee ID, supervisor ID. Okay, employee ID and supervisor ID. Not required at this point of time. Fine. So here I'm saying that a hierarchy is nothing but a custom dimension you can consider. On a runtime we are creating, and that will be saved. It will be calculated at the time of process calculation. And whenever you use a measure with respect to this hierarchy, that will be calculated for this entire dimension. And whenever you want at a month level, quarter level, or semester level, without hitting the server, the same value will be displayed. That is the use of a hierarchy. Okay, that is the use of a hierarchy. And so performance will be improved. No need to process all the records, and no need to perform, no need to evaluate for each level. Then after, you have a requirement, you have one requirement that, boss, I need to display a chart visualization. If I have only these 4 columns, let's consider year, semester, quarter, and a month, and the data. Whenever consider only month, if I take the month column, if I take a measure, what it is going to showcase? Even if you have 3 years or 30 years data, it is going to showcase. It is going to showcase January, February, March, April. This January is going to represent 3 years or 30 years. Okay, so at that time, sometimes we are going to have a requirement that 2015 Jan, 2016 John, 2017 John, 2018 John. You need to represent like that. Okay. How you are going to achieve that one is, first of all, I hope you understood that a hierarchy is nothing but a custom dimension kind of a thing. You are going to relate the values together, a dimension values together, and whenever you use a measure, it will be calculated once. And if you require at a quarter level, based on this one, it will be calculated. If you want to calculate semester, it is going to evaluate only these four records and it is going to get. If you want to calculate year, it is going to evaluate only those two records and it will get. That is what? A hierarchy. And whenever you are creating a hierarchy, there is a concept called natural and unnatural hierarchies. Natural and unnatural hierarchy. So natural is preferable, unnatural is not preferable. What do you mean by natural and unnatural? Or nothing but whenever you are creating a hierarchy, consider the scenario of this date itself. If you see, I will give some name called A, and I have 3 years, 2015, 2016, 2017. Under these 3 years, sorry, here I have a semester, quarter, two levels are fine. Then after I have an items called January, February, and March. Those are same values which are available here also. Those are the same values which are available here also. Okay. The attributes are the values whatever you have. The same values will be repeated in another level of that hierarchy also. If you are having that kind of data, we are calling it as unnatural hierarchy. Understand very clearly. These are the values, not the dimensions. The dimension value is nothing but the semester, quarter, and a month. As part of that values, as part of that level of hierarchy, if you have a hierarchy with the same set of values in a different roots, in this root you have the same January, February, March. In this root also you are going to have a January, February, March, and all those things. In this root also you are going to have the same thing. So if you have the values like that, that we will call it as unnatural hierarchy. Okay. And whenever you are analyzing for a January, or whenever you are looking for a February, that need to filter all the January data, and the January will be again available in different roots of that hierarchy. And whenever you have a requirement to create month level analysis, by default, what it is going to do, instead of considering a different route, it is going to give the data for all the Januaries. Whenever you create a bar chart, you are going to get a January or a February, which is going to represent this one, and this one. So it is going to represent everything. But if I want 2015 January, what I have, 2016 January, what I have, or 2017 January, what I have, in order to represent in a single var, how you are going to define? At that time, you need to use a concept called natural hierarchy, and we need to create a separate column and we need to create a hierarchy on that one. I will clearly explain that one later, now itself, but understand. So understand a point called a hierarchy. Two types of hierarchy will be there: natural and unnatural. Unnatural is nothing but as part of your hierarchy, if you are having the same values are getting repeated in different roots, One second. Fine. So in a different roots, if you are having the same values, that we will call it as unnatural hierarchy. We need to make our hierarchy as a natural, which is nothing but you need to have a distinct values across all the levels, across all the roots, across all the roots. You need to have a different distinct values, so that will give you a performance. Okay, and that will be helpful to read the data, understand the scenario. Understand the scenario. You have a hierarchy is there, which contains year, which contains semester, quarter, and a month. As I said, if I drag month and a value, it is going to show as an aggregation of January, February, March. If I want to see the year level data, I want to see only 2017 month level data. What I need to do? I need to bring my year column. I need to bring my year column, or I need to add that year column as a filter. I need to filter it down to see 2017 month level data. But why? Because you are having a duplicate values for each and every year. That is the reason if I want to see year level data, I need to drag the year. So it is going to get 3 into 12 or 4 into 12 records. Or I need to filter year here at that time I can see. But let's consider a scenario that instead of having a duplicate value here, instead of having a duplicate value, the same called January, February, March, and all those things. If I have a value called 2015 01, 2015 02, 2016 01. If I have a value like this 1501, 1601, 1701, in order to get year level data, or if I want to see 2017 year data, do I need to drag the year column from here to here? Not required. Or from here to here? Required? Not required. Why? Because in the previous scenario it is going to only showcase 12 records, but if I create a dimension values like this, it is going to directly give you 12 into 3, 36 records it is going to showcase. And I can see 2015 data, 2016 data, 2017 data without touching an year column here. So it is always preferable to have a distinct values as part of your hierarchy. When it comes to states and cities, that is fine. That will be natural hierarchy will come by default. But some places like dates and all those places, the same hierarchy values will get repeated in different routes at that time. In order to see one level of data, you need to drag another level also. As I showcased, if I want to see a month level of data 2017, either I need to drag the year column here, or either I need to filter year here. Both might impact the performance. Okay, but without touching year, if I want to see 2017 data also, if you have a distinct values for that year, you can see it. So you need to create a hierarchy values like this. Then after you need to create it. The process of creating or the hierarchy that you created like this will be referred as natural hierarchy. Natural hierarchy means as part of that hierarchy or as part of that root, you need to have a distinct values. Unnatural hierarchy is nothing but if you have a duplicate values, that will be considered as unnatural hierarchy. That is what natural and unnatural hierarchy. I think you understood. I hope you understood. And if you have a values like this, you can define You can display 2015 Jan, 2016 Jan, both you can display as part of your bar chart. It is easy to understand and easy to visualize, and performance will be more if you are having natural hierarchies. That's it about a natural and unnatural hierarchies and hierarchy concept. And now we'll go and create the hierarchies. Yesterday I missed many questions. I didn't saw that chat box. Okay, so if anyone has any questions, you can unmute and proceed. Or if I'm not responding for your question in 5 or 10 minutes of time, immediately respond, like update me. So okay, fine. So here, if you want to create a hierarchy, you can right click and you can. It is not giving. Fine. So here we have an option called create a hierarchy. Click on it. Or let me create here. Here it is getting restarted. Let it restart. Okay, fine. So here I want to create a hierarchy. Whatever the hierarchy name that you want to provide, you can provide it there. Thereafter, the members, whatever the levels that you want to add, you can add it here. Okay. Let me add to hierarchy called hierarchy 1. Okay, it is already added, it is not yet previewed. Just a second. Create a hierarchy, and next, I don't have a quarter and a month, like semester. Give me a minute. Just a second. Now how to fix it? Krishna, this is the issue. How can someone at any cost I require a semester here. I don't have semester in my source. Or Krishnavani or Geetan. I require a semester now. Krishna understood the issue. Our requirement, it's not an issue. Krishna there? Or Krishnavani? So what I am referring is I have a date column. I need to calculate semester from it. Okay, I gone through my format functions which are available. That is not there, but I don't want to escape for now. Okay, tell me a logic where I can get a semester information. Tell me a function how I can get the semester here. Krishna, clear or not? Or other people? Sridevi, Shiv Prasad, Shankar Reddy, and Brahma. I just asking about the people who are from MSP background. Okay, so don't worry other people. I want to hear Krishna's voice once. Krishna, able to hear me? Or you want to rejoin? Fine. I think there is some issue with audio or something. Fine. So now I don't have a format function. I don't have a director function to retrieve that semester. Okay, but I can write my own logic. I can write my own logic mentioning that. One second. Fine. I can write my own logic here that if our switch off the minimum of r, I can mention that I can write a if statement. I don't want to write a 12 cases here. I will write a case statement that we have a calculated column 1 which is going to represent a month number. So calculate table of column 1 which is representing a month number is less than or equal to, or I have a month number is there, directly month number is there, the month ID less than or equals to 6. Phrase before 6, like till 6 months, that is first semester. Otherwise I will make it as a second semester. So now you can see first month, second month, third month. Wait, for the third month, yeah, it is a third quarter. It is the third quarter, seventh month. It becomes a two. Rest all it is a two. So this is at a quarter, and the next one is a semester. Okay, so if you know DAX, you can write a logic. Okay, so based on the existing columns or based on the functions, you can write it. If the same thing will get as part of work, it need to take like we will spend 1 day of time on the same. We don't have semester function, we don't have format thing. So either we look for that logic or someone whatever the code which is written for other things we need to verify it. So this is the place where I calculate the semesters, and I have a quarter, I have a month, and I have a year. Now I'm going and creating. Let me rename it first. Column 1 is nothing but um, fine. Anyways, that is fine. This is the column 1 represents a quarter, column 2 represents a semester, and we have a month ID is there and year ID is there. Now hierarchy. Year after year I require the semester, and here now the actual issue came. Okay, so here create a hierarchy, then after I'm adding there is some issue with my Visual Studio also. Just give me a second. You can see the names. Now I want to create a hierarchy. Is it because of this Visual Studio or the calculated columns will not be added? Anyways, if it is not this scenario, see, as these are the calculated columns, it is not allowing me to create a hierarchy over here. Okay, so what we can do is we can create these things at a database level, and I can get the data and I can create a hierarchy. See, just a second. I restarted it. Okay, fine. So here I'm unable to add that one because that might be a reason of calculated columns. We'll do a research on it, but I don't want to spend a lot of time here. Here I have brand sentiment table is there. There you can see like source wise. the pivot key value, which means a Facebook has a positive, negative, and natural and neutral, and at the same time LinkedIn has a positive, negative, so there is a hierarchy there. So I just want to create a hierarchy based on these two things, and we'll continue further. So here the source, I'm creating a hierarchy, and pivot key value, add to hierarchy is there. So for that hierarchy I'm adding. Fine, hierarchy was created, but here I think it is because of calculated columns. The columns are created after loading the data. At that time, the calculated column will be calculated and the hierarchy also will be calculated at that time only. So that is the reason a hierarchy is not yet created. So it is unable to create here. And here you are able to see that you are able to create a hierarchy and you can add the columns to that hierarchy. Now I create a hierarchy and can build it and deploy it. One second. I deployed it and the sum of mentions, and as part of the brand sentiment you are able to see the hierarchy was created. So whenever you use that hierarchy, that will be evaluated for both the options. Even if I use a pivot key value, now it is not going to hit the server. There is some issue with the hierarchy value that I have. That's why it is showcasing this one. One second. Okay, fine. So as there is some issue with that, so first of all, we'll create some objects at a database level and we'll see that one as per next class. I don't want to continue on the same thing, the hierarchies. Critically, we discussed practically had to showcase. I need to create some objects at a database level instead of creating a calculated columns, and those I will prepare that table by next class. We'll see the practical scenario of that one. Okay, I don't want to spend some time there. I'm closing the hierarchies discussion. We'll see the practical implementation and the functionality as part of next class. And the next thing is the hierarchies. We'll see the remaining part in next session. And the measures and the partitions. Partitions is nothing but by default each and every table will have a one partition. So it's kind of a storage. Okay, it is kind of a storage, and each table by default will have a one partition, and if you want to create a multiple partitions, so if it is a multi-dimensional SSAS, the people will say that we need to convert that one tabular into, we have a table binding and a query binding will be there. We need to convert the table binding into query binding, and we need to take care of something. People will tell, but here by default each and every table will have a one partition, and if you want to work with, if you want to create a multiple partitions, we have an option called partition manager. So we have an option called partitions there. Instead of creating each and every time, or instead of providing connection, let me change the connection once again. Now you have partitions window is there. You can see that each and every table will be here and the relevant data. Each and every table you are able to see then the relevant data. By default you have one partition is there. You have one partition. Now in order to improve the processing means moving the data. That data movement performance, if you want to improve, we are going to create partitions. Okay, if you want to improve the data movement speed, we are going to create a multiple partitions to the table, and we are going to process the data. So as you are moving the data from different connections, it will read the data fast. And the second thing is, if you want to analyze a specific part of a data, let's assume I have one production issue came. People are saying that boss everything is fine, but 2017 June month there is issue with the data. Rest of all the months are fine, they said, and I need to fix it. If I need to fix it, if I process the data for the complete model, or a complete all the 5 years or 6 years data, it will take 4 or 5 hours of time. I need to fix it, or I need to analyze it, I need to identify it in next 1 hour of a time. If I process my cube without knowing anything, it will take 1 day of time to execute that job, or 8 hours of time, 7 hours of time it is going to take. Complete loading from upstream and doing the, like, creating the procedures, validating the procedures, getting the data and everything. So at that time, we have, if you have partitions, that will help you to read only a specific part of a table instead of reading the complete table, instead of reading the complete model. So here, in order to create a partition, you are able to see, let's take that brand sentiment only. Here we have a two views are there. One is table view and SQL view. Here I have main column called mention date. You can create a partition by clicking on a new, and create a partition by clicking on a new, and there you need to apply a filter. Okay, let's consider I am creating a partitions for Facebook data. I wanted to process from one partition, another data I want to process from another place, or I want to process for, here brand sentiment is there, where year of the column name is mention date, where year of mention underscore date equals to 2016. For all 2016 data, I am creating a one partition. Validate it. Fine. So I will say that brand sentiment data for 2016. and I will create another partition for a 2017. I don't have 2018 data, but I will not come and recreate or re-modify this one, right? I'm going to say that create a copy of it for a 2018, and later on for everything. For now, I'm creating that greater than or equal to, or greater than, no, greater than 2018, or greater than or equal to 2019. I will be, this all will be one partition, 9 or more. In the same way, copy it, and I'm creating a partition for 5 or before. I should not leave any data at this point of time. Whatever the data that I loaded, it might contain 1 or 2 years of data, but once you deploy in your production, you might contain other data also. You need to create your partition generic way so that you, you should not miss any data. So less than or equal to 2015, and I created 5 partitions for it, for a brand sentiment table, and 2016, 2017, 2018, 19 or more, 15 or more, and this one I can remove it, and these are the partition that I have. And you can go to the data view. Yes, fine, let me save it. Now I created partitions, multiple partitions I created. Now you have an option called process all option is there. Process all, whenever you selected, all the tables, all all the tables inside your model will get processed. It is going to get the data. Okay, and all the tables will be get processed, and process table is nothing but only the specific table whatever you selected that will get processed, 41004. And process partition is there it is going to showcase you the list of partition that you have for the table, for a selected tables. Why it is showcasing only brand sentiment is you are in a brand sentiment tab, it is refers that one. So you have these many partitions are there. Which partition you want to process? I want to process for 2017. It is saying that 20502 records were reflected. Or I wanted to process for 2018. I don't have any records. It is saying that 0 records it was processed. So whenever I have an issue that thus there is an issue with that specific month data or specific year data, at that time I don't need to reload the complete table. I don't need to wait for complete table load. Here I have file like 5000, 4000, 3000. There you have lakhs of records. You should not wait to load all those records which are not required. So at that time, if you have a partition, you can freshly take the latest copy of data of a specific period and you can analyze it. So this partition will help you in a mainly two ways. One is analyze, which will be helpful to load a specific part of a data whatever you require at the time of analysis. The production support, production issues, those are very important. At that time, it would be helpful. On the other hand, it will be useful to improve processing speed. Processing means moving the data. Processing speed means you are going to move the data with the help of multiple partitions. By default, with only one link, by default it is going to link with only one link and it is going to move the data And if you create a partition, it is going to move the data with a multiple links, so that it will be faster as part of data movement. And at the time of creating this partition, you need to consider 2 points mainly. One is, you need to create a partitions generic way in such a way that as part of this data movement, you should not miss any records here. Once your data movement is done, you should not miss any records based on your business requirement. Based on your business requirement, let's assume I am going to create a visualization for a Facebook data. What do you mean by that one? I need to load the Facebook data from here to here. Here I might have a LinkedIn data or something data, that is fine. But and if I am creating a partition, I should not contain Facebook data. I should not miss any Facebook data from here after loading the data to here. That is what you need to take care. You should not miss any data. Second one, you should not duplicate any data. Okay, here you have 2016, here you have 2016, here also 2016. So 2016 data will be duplicated thrice. You should not duplicate anything here. You should not miss anything here. Those are the 2 points. Those points are there in a multidimensional also. In multidimensional, people will say one extra point that there is a table binding and query binding. Table binding is nothing but by default the complete table will be loaded. That is what table binding. But if you want to create a partition, you should not have a two links. One is going to load a complete table and this is going to contain part of a table. You should not have, right? So what you are going to do, the complete table binding, we are going to break it. We are restricting with a specific part. The another one, another specific part, we are going to make it. That will be fine. So this is what a partition is and how you are going to create a partition, how you are going to process a partition, okay, and why a partition. This is what about a partitions. So in a table you have a partitions concept is there. Instead of loading a complete table, you can load a part of a table, or it will be mainly useful for processing performance speed to improve that one. That is what partitions. Now go to the brand sentiment table and you can see the partition that I created. Whatever, at the time of creating a partition, you need to take a key which is a unique, so that will help you. And that is what tables and the options available as part of a table and hierarchies were pending. I need to check the tables and my tool and everything. We'll discuss that one as part of next session. And final thing is translations. Before continuing to the translations, any questions up to here? If you don't have questions, mention no there, or if you have question, proceed. The start of a quarter or that one is going to give the starting date of a quarter. It will not give you the quarter number or semester number. Okay, fine. Okay. So the next one is translations. Before continuing for the translations, Shankar, do we need a one help from you that how many partitions can be processed at a time? or how to configure or how to limit that one, we require that information from you by next session. You understood that question, Shankar Reddy?
Sure, sure, Srini.
Okay. Like if I have a table with 1 crore of records, if I create a 20 partitions or 10 partitions, does the 10 partitions will move the data at a time, or how many partitions at a time that will be moved, or if I, can we increase or not? How we can able to verify those things are required.
Sure, I'll get those.
Yeah. And the next one is translations. Translations are nothing but like here sometimes the data will be in a different language as part of your database, your Oracle database or whatever the database, you will have a data in a different language. That might be Chinese language or any other language. You have the data. That data, whenever you want to read it, we have nvarchar is there, nchar is there in Oracle, and nvarchar is there in SQL Server. Anyways, the data will be in different language. If you want to see or if you want to generate a report for them in their own understandable format, they don't know English, they know their own language, but the data is in their language only, but the column names are in English, the table names are in English. Yet at that time, if you want to create a report for them, or if you want to provide a self-service for them, so you need to provide the column names, or you need to provide the table names, or you need to provide the model names in their understandable language. So in order to provide them, we have a concept called a translation is there. So translations, what we are going to do is the complete data will be in another language, some X language, but the column headers and the table names and the model name or the measure names or KPI names that you created, those will be in your English language. If I want to give this one with another person who can understand this language, or a list of users who can understand that language but they are not good at the English, okay, we are going to take the help of a translation. We are going to take the help of a translation and we are going to create a similar model. We are going to create a view on top of it by applying all these things, methods, KPIs, and table names, model names in that language, and we are going to give that one to the other guy. So these people can see everything in their language and they can work on it. So with the help of a translation, you are going to give the column names, method names, KPI names, table names, model names in another language. You are going to represent in another language. Okay. So now here, if you want to work with a translation, you need to do two things. One is you need to generate a JSON file with the languages whatever you want. So model, translations, manage translations, import translations are there. Manage translations. You need to select whatever the language that you want. I just want a Hindi. I don't want all those things. So Hindi. Click on next, and or any other language, Tamil. You need to select the languages whatever you want, or if you want, see, I will show you something. I have a data. Let me cancel it. I have a data which represents a social media comments. Okay, so for each social media titles, you can see other language data, right? The customer is available in different countries and they will post in their own language. those things are available in Oracle. Let me you can see that language, Arabic or whatever the language, is available. These are titles. Or comments can be in any language. So those will be in Oracle, and that data is in Oracle. If I wanted to read the data from Oracle, I need to know how to retrieve that all the language data. I know that in SQL Server, if I use in nvarchar, I can read the data, but I don't know that in Oracle what command I need to use. So you can see we written a cast of title as nvarchar and we loaded that one. Okay, so sometimes it will be very less only. Sometimes you need to write a code which is equivalent to Oracle. Why? Because you are reading the Oracle system, right? In Oracle system, whatever the command that we have, we need to use that commands and we need to load. So here data might be in another language, but in order to represent that complete model, we are going to use the translations. And here you need to select what are the languages that you want to represent. I'm just going with the Hindi, and the same way we are going to select all the languages also Hindi, and select, click on export selected languages. There is a file is going to get generated which contains this complete project metadata along with this Hindi. My desktop I'm saying. So translation, it was saved. Now you can see that the complete model whatever we created, that is available here. This is the table name and the relevant columns, post data and the columns, and customer metrics and brand sentiment. In the brand sentiment, you create a measures also. You create the KPI. You create the hierarchies, and the other tables. It is getting displayed. Now, we used to call culture, whatever the name, whatever the language that you selected, each language will be considered as one culture. So here we created a Hindi language, Hindi India, and you can see the everything whatever you observed above or whatever you created, that will be available here to represent in a Hindi. So as part of it, what you need to do is you exported whatever the language that you want. Now what you need to do is you need to provide the equivalent Hindi terms for these things. So pivot key value, what you will refer, pivot key value is one of the my column name. What you are going to give, how you are going to refer in Hindi, you need to give that one. Value or a tracking date. In tracking date, what you want to refer, what you will refer in Hindi, you need to provide that one. So in order to refer that one, I have a Google Translator is there. I don't know that is correct or not. For tracking data, I selected Hindi, and wherever that is there, I'll replace this one. Okay, so now wherever you have tracking date in that, the tracking date we are representing like this, and similarly the value मूल्य. Fine. So we are going to replace like this in our all the columns, all the tables, all the methods, all the KPIs or relationship, not relationships, hierarchy that you created. You need to replace like this. Once you're done with that, save it. Save it. Then after go to your Visual Studio, and here model translations, import translations. Import that file. Click on import. So it is saying that bus import was succeeded, and you are able to. Why you are unable? JSON file translation import. The import is completed successfully for the language that did not already exist in the model. Fine. So there was some issue with my Visual Studio, I think. Build and and let me go to let me deploy it. I deployed it and refreshing it. Now, if that was imported, like select a Hindi from here and whatever post data, you can see that the tracking date and the value came here in Hindi. If I provide all these things in Hindi, those also will come. I didn't given those things, that's why it is not came. If I give all these things, model, measure, KPI, table name, column names I mentioned, and hierarchies I mentioned. If you provide equivalent names, everything will come on that equivalent names. And whenever you provided this one, the tracking date, I didn't create a measure here, fine. So whenever you drag this one, the headers will come on that language. Anyways, the values are already there in that language. You are going to get it. So that is how you can work with translations. It is having some issue. My Visual Studio seems to be having some issue. That is why it is not representing another folder structure, and it is not representing whatever the translation that we imported. But you can see that after deployment that is there. Okay, so that is what a translations. So these are the options available as part of Tabular Model Explorer, data sources, the list of connections that you made, and that will be useful to load the tables. KPIs. If you want to create any KPIs, you can use that KPI concept, which will represent the status of where you are. And the measures. We already had a discussion, and we are going to have a discussion. Perspective is nothing but a view, and the relationships is nothing but data modeling. And the roles we are going to have a discussion. Tables, under that hierarchies we are going to have a discussion. Partitions we covered, and translations we covered. Now, model import from data source, that you know that if you want to load the data from a new connection, we are going to use this one. Analyze in Excel without deploying in a server. If you want to analyze the model, you can. On the same table, if you want to analyze, you don't need to export. But if you want to analyze based on two different tables, you need to play. Those you require Excel. Process partition. If you want to process a specific partition instead of process the complete table, you can use it. Process table, the complete table will be processed. Process all complete model will be processed. Translations. If you want to work with the translations, first of all you need to select the languages. You need to export the file. Then after You need to modify the culture and you need to import it. That is what import translations and that one. And existing connections, if you want to see the list of connections that you made, you have this one. Perspectives, create a perspective and work with the perspective that you created. This one. Roles, we are going to have discussion. Model view. Now you are in a data view. You want to move to diagram view, we can. So, and show or hidden. If you want to see show hidden, so if you want to see the hidden data, you can see it. Okay, if any like hide option, view hidden option is there, right, in Power BI. The same. If you want to see the any hidden things, you can see it. And find metadata. If you want to find any columns or any measures, any tables in your model, you can. So as part of model that you are practicing at our institute or as part of our classes, that you know that what are the tables that you loaded, you know what are the columns that we have, you know whatever we are creating. But in a live environment, once you join, they will send you one code which is developed by someone else. You don't know whatever they created. Okay, so at that context, if you want to find anything, you can find from here. You can type a column there, you can type a measure or a hierarchy name there, you can search it. And by default, as part of search, the hidden measures will not be displayed, but sometimes I need to search that one also, so that you can enable it and you can find it. That is what find metadata. Calculation options we'll see in next session. And a table. So create relationships and manage relationships, which is nothing but a relationship manager. We already saw. And process. Sorry. Show measure grid. Measure grid is nothing but this one. If you want to showcase that one, you can. If you don't want, you can disable that one. And date. Whenever you are working on a MTD, YTD, QTD calculations, date related intelligence, you need to tell that what is the date table, what is the date column. So we need to specify, boss, this is a date table, whatever you have. This is a date table, and under that, this is the column which I am considering it as a primary key. Based on that key, that column, I want to iterate. Based on that one, I want to tell this is the start of an year, this is the end of an year. I need to tell, or this is what start of my fiscal year, or this is what end of my fiscal year. If I want to define, in order to calculate YTD, MTD, QTDs, we need to use a table as a date table and need to provide as a, which one is the primary key. Based on that, all the calculation will run. So that you need to specify from here. And the partitions and table properties. Why it is not showcasing a table property is it is a calculated column. Go to the another table and here partitions. You know what is the partitions now. And table properties. If I want to see, you are able to see that there are 3 or 4 connections were established and there are 30 tables are loaded. But I want to see a specific table from where it is coming, which connection it is coming, what exactly the name in the source. Here I can rename a table name, right? What exactly the name in the source, from where it is coming. If I want to see, I have an option, the table properties. There I can see the connection name, the table name, and in a source what exactly the schema, what is exactly the column name. Or if I wanted to add few more columns of the same table, I can add it. Or if I want to filter something, I can do it. This is what the table properties is. And delete table. If I want to delete a table, you can delete it. Delete table, delete column is going to make whatever you are already selected. If I make delete table, brand sentiment will be get deleted. And a column. If you want to add a column, it's a calculated column. If you want to add it, you can add it. If you want to delete a column, you can delete it. At that time, you need to select at least one column to delete that one. I add a column and you need to write an expression. So fine. Something I'm just specifying. So I create one column, and if I want to delete that one, delete column option is there. And here freeze columns. Sometimes your table is going to contain 25 or 20 columns at that time. Whenever you are scrolling left and right, I want to freeze that column. I don't want to move that column to all the positions. In your Power BI, you have a move to beginning, move to end, move left, move right is there. But I don't have that one. So I want to freeze that column. So at that time, you can freeze a column. Okay. So post data, you can see that the source type, I want to freeze it. I want to freeze it. So freeze a column so that it is not moving. And unfreeze a column. If you want to unfreeze it, you can unfreeze it. And sort, if you want to sort ascending, descending, sort a column based on another column. We already had discussions. And these are the by default aggregation options that we have. So these are all the options that we have. And the next one is, here you are able to see the same options whatever we discussed. It is nothing but import from a data source, analyze in Excel, existing connections, create a perspective and using a perspective specific perspective, find metadata, roles, partitions, showcase method grid or not, or partitions, and process some KPIs. And if you want to work on these things, you need to showcase like sort ascending or ascending to descending, descending to ascending. If you made something, if you want to remove it, you can. And if you applied any filters at a column level, if you wanted to remove that filter, you have this option is there. And sort a column based on another column. Yesterday you created a report by the help of a month and all those things which are not in a sorted order. See, yesterday we created some KPI month name wise brand sentiment measure. You can see that month wise it is displaying. If I perform month name ascending or descending, I want to display the data from January to December. I don't want to see the data from April, August, December, February, all this order. I want to see in English month order. At that time, what you need to do is at your source level, you need to go to your date dimension and you need to say that a month name must be sorted based on month ID, so that once you build it and deploy it, now refresh it if everything is fine. So this is displaying the data from January to December. If I make a descending, it is displaying December to January. So if you want to sort a column based on another column, you have that option is there. If you want to define your dimension values in your own order, you can use that one. And that is what this one. And what else? You don't have any other options. This is everything we observed. All are selected. Everything is observed. So these are the options associated with tabular SSAS development environment. And we have some filters. These filters we are aware of it. Okay. So this is nothing but basic filter. This is nothing but advanced filter. And a sort ascending, descending. And if you sort it, if you want to remove it, if you filter it, if you want to remove it, those options are already done. So then, so this is the solution. So you can build it. Build means it is going to verify is there any syntactical errors or not as part of your measures. It is going to verify it. Once you build it, you have the properties option where you wanted to deploy. This is the server name. This is the server name. At the time of deployment, you have an option called different deployment options are there. default, do not process, and full process. So at that time, sometimes you when you are doing some development, like you need to deploy and you need to test it. So each and every time, whenever you deploy it, sometimes it is going to process the data. Okay. If your data is not moved, you can process it. If the data is moved, you made some say you made some change that comma separator, you provide a amount symbol. Further, data movement is not required, right? At that time, you no need to process. If you leave it, if you are mentioned by default it is selected, if you leave it, for each and every time whenever you deploy it, the complete model will be processed. So you want to process it or you don't want to process it, you need to specify here, so that whenever you deploy it, whenever you build it, whenever you deploy it, it is not referring about the tables, it is referring only metadata whatever you have done. So that you can set it. And properties, those are the options, and whatever the database name that you want to give. And here open a folder explorer is nothing but where you are saved. Upload a project, these are generic for all the templates they are given. Source control and add, this is one of the waste thing. Add, we have a new item as part of tabular SSS. What you can add, another model you can add, but it will not allow you to add. You can have only one model for a project, only one model for a report. So those are some nonsense options are there, you need to look. So that is what, how you can develop your tabular project and deploy. Okay, so now you developed and you deployed in your tabular server. Once you connected to the tabular server, as I said, I hope all the people installed that software. If not, you need to take care today. And once you connected to the tabular server, you can see the databases which are available over here. And here, new query. If you want to write a query, like if you want to write a DAX query, you can open MDX editor and you can write it there. So you can write the DAX or MDX queries here and you can execute it as how you used to write your SQL queries. And on the other hand, you have script. You can generate a script for a creation. Let's assume you developed everything is fine, you tested, you need to move this one to another environment, or you want to create a script and you want to take a backup. Okay, so at that time you have a create script is there. You can create as part of XML script. Once I am done with that, what I am going to do is, let's assume as part of live environment, one of the deployment mechanism is this one also, sending a script. I have another DBA team will be there who is to take care of build and deployment. So I need to give, once my development is done, once my sprint is done, I need to deliver my deliverables to another environment. At the time, I need to give the deployment code to my support team. At the time, you can, this is one of the mechanism. You can send this file. You can tell that, or you can change the connection string, or you can tell that please open this file and update this connection string and connect it to that server and execute that script. You can give a proper guide so that the latest copy will be deployed there. Okay, so this file is going to represent this complete database. So you want to take it as a backup or you want to give it as a deployment script, however you want, you can make it. And process data means if you want to read the data from a source on a ad hoc base, you can. Process database option is there. So you have a different types of processes are there. Process full, process clear, process recalculation, process default. Process full is nothing but it is going to remove all the data which is available here, and which is going to reload the data, and which is going to recalculate the calculated columns and hierarchies. And process clear is nothing but it is going to remove all the data, and process recalculation is nothing but it will just recalculate the calculated columns and hierarchies. So these are the different process types that we have. Process default is nothing but unprocessed data will be moved to here. You can select whatever you want, you can process it, and and if you want to take a backup, you can take a backup, and if you want to restore it from another backup, you can restore from a power pivot. If you want to load the data from a power pivot without using your tabular SSAS development, if you want to make it, you can make it here. And a browse, if you wanted to analyze the data, we have browse option is there, which is what we have been observing. So we can drag and drop. We'll have a detailed discussion, or we'll have some discussion in continuation of the next session. And detach means you have delete and detach, two things are there. Delete means completely deleting this database from your machine. Detach is nothing but we are not removing from your machine, we are why okay, fine. So like detach means it is going to remove the database link from the server here, but that will be available on a database. And reports, if you want to see, there is no reports will be there generally. Okay, you don't have anything here. Okay, so when last processed, that is available here, and nothing is available here. And if you want to rename your database, if you want to refresh it, and if you want to see the properties of the database, here also when it is last processed, and everything will be available. Okay, these are the options available at a database level. If you have a database here, how to connect to the Power BI is nothing but you need to give the server name, this database name, live or import. That's it. These are the options available here on a tabular SSAS development and deployment. On a overall, what I still need to cover, I need to showcase here is hierarchy clear picture. On the other hand, roles and roles security concept in tabular SSAS hierarchies. There is a calculation called automatic and manual is there, and the browser options. So if I showcase those things, everything is clear. Those things we'll discuss tomorrow evening session. Okay, tomorrow evening session if required, that might be continued from a day after, like tomorrow, from again Monday onwards, morning session will be there. At the time we will close everything of the security and all the options by tomorrow evening. It will be closed. If not, that will be continued to the next session. Okay, so any questions up to here, whatever I am done so far? Any questions? Any questions? If you don't have a question, you need to respond.